1 minute. That is the grand total of floor time a former national champion and top 10 draft pick has logged over her last 6 games. And she might be the single most valuable player nobody in Indiana is talking about. Because while the Indiana Fever are quietly riding a winning streak, there is one flaw buried deep in the box score that could decide whether Caitlin Clark's championship window slams shut or swings wide open. And the number that exposes it is uglier than anything you've seen on a highlight reel. Stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll see exactly why one phone call to Golden State could change the entire Eastern Conference, and why the numbers are screaming a truth the front office keeps ignoring. Let's set the table first. As of late June, Caitlin Clark and Indiana sit at 7-5, looking to continue their winning ways after a 14-106 overtime win over the Chicago Sky. And Clark herself? She's been electric. In that Sky game, Clark finished with a double-double of 32 points and 10 assists, the third career 30-point double-double for Clark, matching Tamika Catching's franchise record. That's elite generational stuff. Now, before we go any further, do me one favor. If you want the kind of analysis that actually digs into the tape instead of just reading you a headline, hit that subscribe button and smash the like. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and it tells me you want the real breakdowns. All right, back to it. Here's the part that should worry you. The Fever look healthy and dangerous right now, but the engine has a crack in it, and that crack is the front court. The Fever's lack of size has already become a major talking point early in the season. Indiana's roster averages around 6'1", and outside of Boston, the team has just a few impactful bigs. 6'1", as a team average, in a league where the title contenders are getting bigger and more physical every single year. When Aliyah Boston dropped 34 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists against the Sky, it papered over the problem. But what happens when Boston sits? What happens when she's in foul trouble in a playoff game? That's where the whole thing gets shaky. And earlier in the year, with Monique Billings out with injury, it was pretty much just been the Aliyah Boston show. But that wasn't even the scariest part of the picture, because we've seen this movie before. Cast your mind back to last season, when Clark was limited to 13 regular season games because of multiple soft tissue injuries in her lower body. The Fever survived that nightmare on heart and guard play. But here's the brutal reality the data lays bare. When your superstar guard is fragile and your interior is thin, you are one bad night away from collapse. So the question becomes obvious. If the Fever are serious about contending around Clark right now, while she's healthy and torching the league, why would they leave the most fixable weakness on the entire roster untouched? And what if the perfect solution was sitting on another team's bench, gathering dust, available for pennies on the dollar? That brings us to the name you need to remember, Laeticia Amihere. And here's where the numbers start telling a story that should make every Fever fan sit up. Amihere is a 6'3" forward, drafted 8th overall by the Atlanta Dream in the 2023 draft, who played her college ball for the South Carolina Gamecocks. She's an NCAA champion. She's young, athletic, a genuine interior presence, and right now, she is being treated like she doesn't exist. Backup center Laeticia Amihere has continued her fall out of the rotation, becoming a healthy scratch for her 3rd straight game. It got worse from there. After being a rotation regular, Amihere has played just 1 minute over the last 6 games. Now stop and really sit with this, because here is where the tape and the data completely contradict the coaching decision. You'd assume a player buried this deep must be hurting the team when she plays, right? Wrong. The opposite is true. Amihere's sudden benching has been perplexing, considering the Valkyries are statistically better when she's on the floor. Their offensive rating is 16 points higher, and their offensive rebounding percentage is over 4 points better when she is on the court. 16 points higher. Read that again. When this woman steps on the floor, Golden State's offense doesn't just improve, it transforms. And their offensive rebounding, the exact thing the Fever are desperate for, jumps measurably. The film shows it, the analytics scream it, and yet she can't get off the bench. So why on earth is Golden State doing this? That's the natural question, and the answer is actually pretty simple. It's a scheme decision, not a talent decision. The coaching staff has opted to go small when starter Kaya Stokes is off the floor, with Thornton playing backup center and Salayon and Zandalasini handling minutes at power forward. In other words, head coach Natalie Nakase has decided her team functions best playing small ball, and that style simply doesn't have a seat for a traditional 6'3" forward, no matter how good her on-court numbers look. This isn't Amihere falling off a cliff. This is a system that has no room for her. And that, my friends, is the textbook definition of a buy low opportunity. A talented, young, championship pedigree forward, miscast and forgotten on a roster that doesn't fit her. That is exactly the kind of player a smart contender swoops in and steals. But here's where it gets really interesting for Indiana specifically. Because Amihere isn't just a good player who happens to be available. She is almost custom-built for what the Fever need. Think about the holes we just identified. Size, athleticism, offensive rebounding, front court depth behind Boston. Amihere checks every single box. She's a 6'3" forward who can defend, crash the glass, and play with relentless energy. And then there's the detail that's almost too perfect. She's a South Carolina product. If you followed the Fever's roster-building philosophy at all, you know they have an obvious, well-documented love for Gamecocks. Aliyah Boston is the cornerstone, a South Carolina champion herself. The cultural fit, the locker room fit, the playing style fit, it all lines up. Pairing Amihere next to Boston up front gives Indiana a front court that can actually hold up when the postseason gets physical, instead of getting bullied on the boards. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, what does it cost? And this is where I want to be fair and honest, because I'm not here to just throw a young Fever player under the bus. Indiana has a developing big of their own in Michaela Timpson, the player teammates affectionately call KK. And look, Timpson has genuinely improved. For the year, the 23-year-old forward has averaged 3.4 points, 3.6 rebounds, and just over half a block in about 14 minutes per game while shooting 60% from the floor. That shooting efficiency is real, and her remarkable 6'10" wingspan doesn't hurt either. Caitlin Clark has praised her. Kelsey Mitchell has praised her. She is a good young player and a great teammate. But here's the uncomfortable truth the box score keeps whispering. Timpson's role has been sporadic in 2026, as she's logged at least 20 minutes on 4 occasions, but has played single-digit minutes 4 other times among her 14 appearances. She's a project, a promising one, but a project. And if the Fever are trying to win a title in Clark's window right now, the cold calculation is whether you keep developing a raw prospect or whether you convert that potential into a proven, ready-made contributor. A roughly even money swap, a young developmental big for a buy-low, championship pedigree forward who makes everyone around her better, is exactly the kind of move that wins playoff series on the margins. The salaries line up, the fit is cleaner, and the numbers, frankly, favor the upgrade. And now here's what almost nobody noticed, the wrinkle that makes this whole thing even juicier. The Valkyries are a Moneyball franchise. Veronica Burton started all 44 regular season games for the Valkyries last year and was the only WNBA player to lead her team in total points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. They are ruthlessly efficient with their roster, and they have repeatedly shown they'll move a player who doesn't fit their scheme. They literally traded the rights to a beloved draft pick and waived players to maximize fit. A franchise that calculated is not going to let a forward who can't crack their small ball rotation just rot for nothing. They'd much rather flip her for an asset. Which means this isn't some pie-in-the-sky fantasy trade. The motivation exists on both sides. That's what makes it real. That's what separates wishful thinking from an actual opportunity hiding in plain sight. Let me play devil's advocate for a second, because good analysis has to. Is Amihere a perfect 20-10 franchise center who solves everything overnight? No. In her first couple of seasons, she averaged modest numbers in limited minutes. And a chunk of her value lives in the on-off data rather than gaudy box scores. But that's the entire point of trading on the margins. You're not getting a perfect option mid-season. Those players don't get moved. You're hunting for someone who does 1 or 2 things genuinely well, fits a need, and provides a positive impact for almost no cost. By every measure that matters, the analytics, the fit, the pedigree, the price, Amihere is precisely that player. The data says it all. So let's bring it home. The Indiana Fever, with a healthy Caitlin Clark playing some of the best basketball of her career, have a real shot this season. But contending teams don't win by ignoring their one obvious flaw and hoping it disappears. The front court size and rebounding gap is the crack in the foundation, and the tape proves it. Meanwhile, a 6'3" South Carolina champion who makes her team 16 points better per 100 possessions is sitting on a bench across the league, playing 1 minute every 6 games, miscast and available. The numbers don't get much louder than that. Whether the Fever's front office is brave enough to actually make the call, that's the part we don't know yet. So now I want to hear from you. Should the Fever pull the trigger and go get Laeticia Amihere, or do you ride with Michaela Timpson's development and keep the future intact? Drop your verdict in the comments, because I read them, and the best takes shape future videos. If this breakdown gave you something the other channels missed, hit that like button, subscribe for daily WNBA analysis, and I'll see you in the next one. The numbers never lie, and right now, they're pointing straight at Golden State's bench.